Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in and taking a little bit of time out of your day to watch the video. Much appreciated. And now actually I'm right now just got back from St. Louis, Missouri. Kim had her powerlifting meet up there yesterday and she actually got first place, set a state record for bench press. So she did pretty good in that. And I'm actually headed down to Grand Lake right now to do a promotion for Bridgeford. Not going to practice today. Going to start practicing tomorrow, Monday, for my first day of practice down there. So I'll keep you guys updated on how everything's going in practice. I'll give a pre-practice report and hopefully can share a few things that might help you catch a few more bass by the end of the week down there. But a couple different things, guys. I just want to let you all know, if you guys have been trying to get a hold of me on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page got hacked somehow. And it's affecting my ability somehow to get messages on my professional page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler. So if you guys are interested in shooting me a private message, like for on the water lessons or something like that, until I get this figured out, you can just do that. Just shoot me a private message on my Instagram page, just go to Blockett Randy, and you can shoot me a message there. And man, those hackers, I swear I'd like to just hook a Zare spook hook through their nose and drag them around the boat with it. I just can't, I wish there was stiffer penalties and criminal punishment for those people that do that, or they can really mess things up. So anyway, working on that, trying to get that fixed up. But anyway, today on the down to Grand, I want to talk about setting the hook, how hard you should set the hook, because this is one of the things that comes up a lot in fishing, and it's a huge aspect of the technical aspect of fishing, as far as things that you have control of, as far as that are a controlled variable in your fishing. How hard you set the hook, there's a lot of different factors to it. And what I want to do is I want to go through sort of the whole range of different techniques that you set the hook with, different type of lines, that type of stuff, because not one hook set fits everything. So I'm going to go through everything, sort of give you guys my opinion on what's worked best for me over the years, and I think it'll help you guys out too. So let's start out. Let's just talk about talk about flipping and pitching with fluorocarbon line, for the first part. And because this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see anglers make when they're setting the hook, as far as how hard they set the hook. I think that when you're flipping and pitching, and we'll even say braided line too, because I see people do this with braided line. When I see people flipping and pitching, it doesn't matter if it's boat docks or laydowns or grass or flooded cover or whatever, everybody, they just jack them as hard as they possibly can. I see everybody out there just swinging hard as they can possibly set the hook. And guys, this is not how you want to do it. More than not, you're going to lose more fish doing this. And how I figured this out, and I want to explain to you guys how I figured out to set the hook on this, is I pitch and flip a lot, and I have been for 30, 40 years. And I lost more fish pitching and flipping with jigs than I did about any technique, which you wouldn't think so, because it's a single hook lure. And I was the same way. I'd get the bite and I'd reel down and I'd just jack them and lose a lot of fish like that. But what happened is I figured this out years ago down at Grand Lake flipping willow trees. In practice, I didn't want to hook the fish. I just wanted to shake them off. So what I did is I had, on the worm that I was fishing, I had a little bitty, like a 1/0 offset hook on there in my practice box. I have a little tackle box, like with just rusted junk hooks out, that I use in practice, because I don't care if I'm really hooking the fish or not. But anyway, I had this little bitty 1/0 hook and this big fat worm, and the thing was rusted and everything, and I just hooked it right in the middle. And every time that I'd get a bite, I'd feel the fish on there, and I'd just pick up and I'd start shaking on it, trying to shake the fish off. And half the time, I'd wind up catching the fish, and they'd be perfectly hooked through the roof of the mouth without even setting the hook. And in the tournament, I remember that same tournament, is when I got a bite in the tournament, I had like a big 4/0 flipping hook on. I didn't have the little 1/0 wire hook on there that I was practicing with. I had a big old flipping hook in there, and when the fish bit, I reeled down and jacked them. And guys, I lost 50% of the fish that hit me in that tournament flipping, setting the hook like that. So I learned from that lesson, and what I started doing is, on my pitching and flipping, is number one, I went to smaller hooks, and number two, when the fish bit, pitching and flipping, instead of reeling down and set the hook, I just started shaking the rod tip a little bit, putting pressure on the fish, and leaned back into the fish and just started reeling hard. I didn't set the hook on there, and my bite to land ratio, guys, went through the roof. It just made a huge difference. So first thing I want to say is setting the hook. When you're setting the hook with pitching and flipping, braid, fluorocarbon, like that ever, resist that urge to jack them hard, reel down, feel that tension, pull into them, and keep reeling hard. That's going to get you a lot of fish there. So let's talk. The next thing I want to talk about, let's talk about moving baits, crank baits, spinner baits, chatter baits, that type of stuff. Because I see a lot of people make a mistake setting the hook on this too. One of the big things you have to resist when you're setting the hook on any type of a moving bait, it can be a buzz bait, it can be spinner bait, chatter bait, crankbait, lipless crankbait, anything that's moving through the water column, swim bait, whatever. One of the things that you have an urge to do is when you get a bite on like a spinner bait or a chatter bait, as soon as you feel that bite, you're like a live nerve and you just set the hook immediately. One of the things that you have to train yourself to do, guys, is when you get a bite on a moving bait, don't set the hook real hard on it. Just you have to, and I've talked about this a little bit before in the past, is you have to hesitate just a second, and again, you don't jerk and set the hook hard. You pull easily into the fish and take up the rest of that momentum as far as the penetration by the reel handle. Reel hard while you're pulling into that fish. You don't ever want to jerk hard into that fish like you're trying to jerk those trebles into the fish. Just pull hard and start reeling hard. Keep the fish coming, keep the pressure on the fish, and that will, your catch rates will go way up on that. One of the ways that I've lost a lot of fish in the past is if I'm cranking a square bill crankbait or wiggle wart or anything like that, man, especially if I hadn't had a bite for a while, as soon as I got a bite, I would just set that hook hard, and then I would take pressure off, and I'd just be fighting the fish in. And I lost so many fish like that, but it was only until I started giving that little bit of a hesitation, pull into the fish and reel hard, I started doing a lot better. So that's for moving baits. Now for spinning rod, let's talk about spinning rod techniques as far as like shaky head, drop shot, Ned rig, that type of stuff on there. Again, one of the worst things you can do on a spinning rod with any of that setup on there is to jerk hard, set the hook hard on that type of stuff. What you want to do on all those baits is you want to feel that fish load up a little bit, load up on the rod tip where that fish, you can feel the fish surging a little bit with it. I don't ever set the hook on a spinning rod until I can actually feel that fish move with the bait, moving with it. And again, once that fish moves with the bait, I simply pull back into it. I don't set the hook hard. I simply pull back into it, reel at the same time. And that's the key on all this stuff when you're pulling, guys, is you pull and reel at the same time. You don't set the hook, because what happens a lot of times when people set the hook, they set the hook and they don't reel their handle. It's just like they're setting with the rod tip, and then they have to bring up the slack. But if you learn to pull into that fish and reel at the same time, you're taking so much more slack up and you're driving that hook home a lot more than if you just jerk into it. So that's the gist of today's tip, guys. Quit setting the hook hard, quit jerking into the fish with any bait you do, and learn to pull and reel. Just remember that, pull and reel all the time. Don't take pressure off that fish unless they start going the other way, where you have to give them some line a little bit. So it'll definitely help you out. Guys, I learned the hard way. If I would have known this 30 years ago, I would have won, instead of winning $2 million bass fishing, I'd have won $4 million by now. I lost so many fish in the process of learning how to set the hook that I just want to pass that along to you guys so you don't have to go through the same painful experiences. So anyway, gonna get down here to Grand Lake. Lake has been getting beat to froth all weekend long. They had the Bass Pro Shop qualifier down there. They got all the bass guys, open guys practicing. I'm sure every single stump and log and dock has had a lure thrown around it all weekend. So I'm going to get down there early tomorrow morning and start practicing, and I'll give you guys a report tomorrow night when I get off the water, let you know how it went. So thanks again, guys. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Hit the like button too if you haven't, and we'll see y'all later.